Welcome back to another CR Live. Today with me to discuss the happenings of both yesterday and today, because it never ends in Kavanaugh world, are Chris Pandolfo of Conservative Review staff writer, and Nate Madden, who writes the Capitol Hill Brief and also stars in the Capitol Hill Brief for CRTV. Welcome, guys. A lot to talk about. Don't have a ton of time. It's the end of the day Friday. Who knows what can drop in the next 35 minutes. Yeah. So just wanted to get some thoughts on different things. The first thing I want to talk about, obviously, the title of this episode and whatnot, is the flaking out on Kavanaugh. We got word late last night, but definitely confirmed today, that Jeff Flake was a yes in the committee to recommend Brett Kavanaugh be confirmed to the Supreme Court. And then at the last minute, obviously, because that's how this thing goes, he decided to put a stipulation onto that he would only continue to be a yes if there was the allowance for a 1-week delay or FBI investigation. It kind of put the whole committee and everything into chaos and panic, and it looks like that worked. So I'm going to toss first to you, Nate. Nate, what is your understanding of what is going on and kind of where we are as we move into the next week?
So where we are is what we basically had a block of moderates in both parties. You had Jeff Flake, Lisa Murkowski, Joe Manchin, a couple others all come together to say, well, let me back up a little bit. So I sat through 5 hours of that hearing markup, which was absolutely dreadful. Cory Booker took up 20 minutes that he didn't have to give a 2020 campaign speech, at which, after the end of which, he stormed out in dramatic fashion, only to come back later for the actual vote. Now, the vote was set for 1:30. 1:30 rolls around, nobody's voting, half the people aren't in chairs, no one knows what's going on. No one knows what's going on. Jeff Flake's out of the room. Chris Coons is going back and forth. Jeff Flake, as we find out, has been in the ante room, the room adjacent to the hearing room, talking with Democrats because he's waffling. After about 25 minutes of speculation, everybody's sitting around trying to figure out what in the world's going on. Jeff Flake comes strutting back in and says that he'll vote to get him out of committee, but he can only support a final vote, yes, on Kavanaugh, if we have this 1-week extension so the FBI can do their own supplemental probe. Now, that gave all the other undecideds something to jump behind, to stall for more time, to test the waters, to run for more cover, whatever you need. So that's where that moderate block came from. They all came together. And at that point, with the narrow math that they have in the Senate for this confirmation, they can only lose one Republican and with the 51 majority and still have Pence break the tie, right? Very narrow math. McConnell, Republican leadership, their hands are tied on that. So we're going to have another week. We're going to have the FBI look into it. They're going to recommend to the administration. And let's face it, they're going to drag this out for another week, and we're probably going to have a lot more specious, uncorroborated claims come out against Kavanaugh in the meantime, because like you said, this never ends. This confirmation process, because it's not really a process, it's a calamity. It's like the Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like. You can just never, ever leave this thing.
Right. Chris, I mean, we were chatting before we went live here, and one of the things that you heard from just one of your sources, we'll leave it at that this might actually end up being a good thing, in that it was kind of discussed and bantered about that this might actually be okay. I mean, tell me what you were telling me earlier.
The first thing that we all have to understand here is an FBI investigation is not going to change anything. In fact, nothing has really changed about this Kavanaugh nomination process since Christine Ford's allegations first became public. We still don't have any evidence. All the witnesses who Ford has named have denied that the incident that she claims happened took place. Kavanaugh denies that it took place. We have some new allegations from the Deborah Ramirez and then the Michael Avenatti's client, and those are just totally beyond the pale, ridiculous allegations that have even less evidence than the first allegations for Ford. So this FBI hearing, it's only going to be related to the Ford case. They're not going to go after any of the other stuff. It's only going to have about a week to go through, and the FBI is only going to be able to do it if they can talk to all their witnesses. So the reason this could be a good thing is politically, it keeps the issue alive for another week closer to the election. there were some people who were thinking that maybe if Kavanaugh got confirmed over the weekend, that would remove the issue from the board for the Republicans in the fall, because it's just another week that they can remind people that the Democrats are being obstructionist, that Democrats are being unserious. Because when this investigation concludes, what they're going to say is, oh, well, it didn't find anything because there's no evidence to investigate. And all the witnesses that they have talked to are already going to say the same thing over and over again. So they're not going to learn anything new. And the Democrats are going to say, well, the FBI investigation wasn't thorough enough because we haven't learned anything new. It wasn't thorough. So we obviously can't vote for Kavanaugh because we still don't know. Or they're going to say, well, it didn't go far enough and we really have to investigate these other allegations or whatever else comes up for the week. And so the Democrats are going to continue to use this to stall. They want to get this as close to the election as possible because they think that this helps their cause. And on the other hand, letting the investigation happen removes the talking point that, hey, we need to have an investigation to figure this stuff out. Well, okay, now the Republicans are going to do that. So they take that talking point off the table, and all the Democrats are left with then is, we're not going to vote for Kavanaugh because we really, really don't want to, and we think he's guilty even though he hasn't been proven guilty. And we don't care about the rule of law. We don't care about due process. And as Senator Kennedy said earlier today, the intergalactic freak show continues.
Right. We were going to jump and do this live like right after the initial vote, and I did the Deese show today, the Steve Deese show, and we talked about the probability of him getting confirmed or this being delayed and different things, and we were right in the midst of everything, and now we're still kind of in the midst of figuring out how this is all going to play out, but just kind of in rapid fire fashion, and I'll go to you, Chris, first. Do you think that this improves or hurts Kavanaugh's chances ultimately of being confirmed? And then the follow-up is, do you think he does get confirmed?
See, I think if they had forced the issue, Kavanaugh would have been confirmed tomorrow, but Flake gave cover for the moderates to maybe vote no. So it's just, I don't know what new allegations are going to come up throughout this week, so I really can't say whether or not how it's going to affect his chances. I just don't know. There's too many unknowns.
And Nate, what about you? I mean, do you think that this hurts or helps his ultimate chances?
This hurts the odds. I still think they're stacked in his favor ultimately. It's assuming that, all right, so this is like the post-Ted offensive reasoning, right? So we have to assume that if there are people who are lying in this equation, that the strongest cases would have come out first. If you assume it on that, it's kind of like the Tet Offensive in 1968, right? So the Viet Cong, they blew everything they had on the offensive, and then people retreated. They didn't have anything to follow up on that. So it all depends on what really comes out of the cycle. If this is all that the nefarious types who are hiding things had under their sleeves, if this is all the leakers had, and if this is all that's going to come out, he's going to get it. There's absolutely nothing the FBI is going to do that the committee didn't already do. They're going to talk to people. They're going to get sworn statements. They're going to get the same sworn statements, but they will put those sworn statements on Form 302s, put them into the file, and send the file back. So, assuming there's no UFO, there's nothing else, he's going to get confirmed. But we have to do this whole dance with these moderates who... I mean, Jeff Flake. Who in the world can figure out Jeff Flake? I don't know. I don't know what his end game is. What he's trying to prove to anybody at this point. I don't know.
Nate, his end game is a slot on cable news as an MSNBC.
Well, so pragmatically, yes, I know his end game is a contributor role on cable news. That much is obvious. But does he honestly believe that people are following along with this? Are there people out there who, well, outside of Bill Kristol's Twitter following, who actually follow along with this crap? We realize this is just like Collins and Murkowski, giraffes have long necks and water is wet. We know they're going to do that. They have to play this game. We have to play this game with them on absolutely everything. And this is one of those situations where they look like they'll actually vote with the Republicans as soon as they have enough political cover to do so. But good grief, I can't figure out Jeff Flake.
I mean, the fear, right? And to me, the fear is, while I can go along with this chess game of we're doing the best thing because we're giving them a week. We're still keeping everything confined before it's really, really crunch time for the elections. We kept everyone fired up on the right for another week where it's, ultimately we're all just going to go and confirm him anyways, blah, blah, blah. But what happens, there's in the live chat here on YouTube, one of the people watching says next week a Democratic senator will show up with all sorts of new allegations.
Yes.
And if you really want to hear what they said, you can go to the live chat. But I mean, it's true. I mean, we've seen this yesterday. The Democrat senators had the audacity to put forward the Avenatti claims. I mean, we're already dealing with claims from Ford that have no real factual basis outside of her allegation. And I'm not trying to diminish her allegation. I'm just saying there were no other real factual support to that. And then to add on these other ones that are even more preposterous, I mean, at what point is it enough to satisfy the Democratic senators? Because if the Democrats say the allegations are enough, then, I mean, you just pile up the 5 to 10 more that are going to come next week. I just don't see what this... I mean, I understand what it is in a vacuum, but I don't see how in the totality of the circumstances this helps the Republican cause at all. And I just don't see how it helps Kavanaugh's cause.
I can tell you the point at which all of this is sufficient. The Wednesday after the election, the first day of the lame duck session, that is when all this is sufficient, and they no longer have to stall. They can just dare their Republican colleagues to try to vote this guy in on a lame duck session.
Yeah, the Democrats will not be satisfied until the progressives control the Supreme Court in perpetuity. If Kavanaugh does get confirmed, what they're going to do is they're going to run on expanding the court to 11 seats instead of 9 to put 2 more progressive justices on the court.
And that was going to be my next question. Is I hate playing the what if game, but in politics you have to, because we're perpetually running for office, we're perpetually up for re-election. So the question would become is if there wasn't the fear of the blue wave, if we didn't think we were going to, we being the right, if we didn't think we were going to lose all these seats, what play does the left have? They don't have the same play of running out the clock. They don't have the same leverage as having the lame duck. So then is it that we're going to win in 2020 and expand the court? Like that's their threat. They hang it over there.
Well, they think they're going to win in 2018. They're going to take control of Congress. Right. They think they're going to get the House. They're hoping to get the Senate and making the Supreme Court an issue that they didn't. They want to activate all the Hillary Clinton voters who didn't vote by saying, you guys screwed up your vote in 2016 because you didn't show up for the Supreme Court. And now Roe v. Wade is at stake. And they're using the abortion issue to activate the entire Democratic base and get them to the polls to to retake the Senate and give it to Democratic hands. And then the argument's going to be, well, we have the House now, and we're going to try and impeach President Trump, but we don't have enough votes in the Senate to do it. So you, the American people, are going to have to impeach Trump by voting against him in 2020, and we're going to run Cory Booker, who's been positioning all week to run for president, or we're going to run Kamala Harris, who's been doing the same thing, or we're going to run Amy Klobuchar, who's been doing the same thing. In fact, I think half of the Senate Judiciary and Committee Democrats are running for president. And this entire week has been their stump speeches, their pitches for why they're going to be the most far-left, radical, crazy candidate who's going to stop Trump and just give it to the Republican Party. They will never be satisfied until they're in power. And when they're in power, they're going to try to rig the game so that they can't be taken out of power.
Right, definitely. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, Nate, is there any sense from anyone that you've spoken to on the Hill, whether it be a staffer? I mean, I don't need to hear names necessarily because I know that's probably not the case. But is there anyone who's saying, hey, look, like this week is a good thing? I mean, I know this is still fluid and you're not there today because nobody expected this, but is there any sense of that?
Nobody in my Rolodex is deluded enough to think what like this extra week is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how. I mean, I get why Flake did it. I get that there wasn't a lot that the other side could do. I mean, I guess except to grow a backbone in 24 hours, but I just don't see how this can be spun to be anything good. Like, it's not going to unify the Republicans.
Well, it will unify them against Jeff Flake.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I mean. There isn't anything. I don't know. I mean, this just frustrates me. It frustrates me in the sense that you're a month out from an election. You had a defining moment yesterday that you could have seized on, and I think that they still can seize on it. I think Trump can seize on it. I just don't see how this gives them anything. it only hurts them. I just don't see how it gives them anything. I don't know what McConnell
They didn't have a choice.
Right.
McConnell doesn't have a choice.
Right.
Yeah, there's no choice here.
So
it's Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins and Jeff Flake are going to vote no if they don't get their way. And if they can, and the Republican Party knows, Mitch McConnell knows, if Kavanaugh goes down after the way the Democrats have pulled this stunt, the way they've acted so despicably and evilly, really, if they win, if the Republicans let them win after that, voters are just going to throw up their hands and say, what use is the Republican Party? Why should I even bother voting? They can't even fight to get a Supreme Court nominee confirmed when there's no evidence that he's done anything wrong. I think that just this whole situation just ticks people off. And if they let them get away with this, there's just no future for the party.
Yeah, I would agree to that. I don't know what the outplay is here. I don't know what Republicans do here in this situation to leverage this move at all. I think they just have to now go along, hope for the best. That sounds awful, but I mean, like you said, Flake had all the leverage. He really did. It just stinks that people like Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins and others get to have so much power in a Republican-controlled Senate in such an important situation, and they don't for once just sort of like grab themselves and say, hey, you know what, here I'm going to play for the team. Here I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Like
this is why you got to pay attention to primary politics. But you have to vote people out of office when you know that they're going to keep screwing you over and over again.
But you're talking to me, who was on Joe Miller's campaign when that happened. It remember, I mean, not to relitigate that, but then
I know you know this, and I know Nate knows this, but it just our viewers have to understand that until these people start going down in primary elections, they're going to keep screwing us over.
But it's not just them individually. I mean, John, you had Cornyn and you had all these other people who allowed Murkowski to come back, be the chairman, be in these positions of power.
Remember them too.
And you're right. But now we're back to 2010, where it's the Tea Party and primary these people, and that didn't work. I mean, we're almost a decade out from that movement. So back to the issue at hand.
There is one play.
Yeah. Okay.
There is one play to leverage this. The only way to gain any benefit off of this extra week is going to be on the Senate map, and it's not. I mean, POTUS can Trump can probably get into this and and really hang this around their necks and get away with it, and he probably will tweet about this before Monday morning, but hang this and whatever comes out of this week around the necks of the moderates who caused it, and just go out to make the point that all the grassroots folks have been making for months, saying we need a bigger majority in the Senate, so that Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and next session Mitt Romney aren't running the show.
Yeah, and to be able to do that, you need to have a functioning movement that's able to organize people and is able to message that for the next 2 years. Because I don't know, when is even Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins up for election next? I don't think Collins is up for election for at least 2 more years. And I think Murkowski just won her reelection.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
It's not until 2022. So ultimately what needs to happen here, and if there's a time for this to happen, it was this week when you saw nearly every conservative commentator, every faction that's going on in the Republican Party right now reunite together to save Kavanaugh, because they realize what the Democrats are doing is stupid and evil.
Okay.
And if you're going to have to, that they have to organize and they have to be on board to primary Republicans who are going to not stand up to the Democrats.
But we're almost in October, so not to cut you off, but let's.
I'm talking long term though.
Well, of course, and that's always. Yeah, but I mean, but now we're in crunch time. We're October, next week is October. So you're a comms director, or you're a campaign manager for some random Republican who's up against the wall, who's in Congress, an incumbent, or even somebody who could maybe flip a seat, or a senator. What is your what is your message to your candidate and to your team? Like, how do you take what's going on and
so
use
you see
this?
what the Democrats are doing with these false allegations, the way that they're presuming that Kavanaugh is innocent, or if they're presuming he's guilty, when it's supposed to be you're innocent until you're proven guilty. They are running with he's guilty until he's proven innocent. The message is these Democrats will not just do it to Brett Kavanaugh, they'll do it to you, the American people. If you're ever want to run for office in the future, if your kid is going to be a Supreme Court judge one day, they will use 36-year-old allegations with no evidence to destroy your kid just because you might think a little bit differently than the Democrats do. And what we're running around this campaign for is to make sure that the Democrats don't take power. So we're going to punish them for this behavior. And in the United States Senate specifically, you see that this week, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins and Jeff Flake, just a handful of these Republican senators, are enough to upset the 51-seat majority. 51 seats is too small. We have 10 Democrats in Trump states running for election this cycle. Let's knock them all out. Let's get as many Republican senators as possible so we can neutralize the Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins vote. If John James wins in Michigan, if the guy Matt Rosendale wins in Montana where he's challenging John Tester, if Kevin Cramer wins where he's challenging Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, that's 3 new Republican senators right there that neutralizes Flake, Collins, and Murkowski. You have Josh Hawley running in Missouri. You have Rick Scott running in Florida. There's a bunch of Republicans running in blue states this year that can neutralize that moderate block of Republican senators. So the short-term message is that's what we've got to do to keep the Senate in Republican hands and to make sure that Trump gets Supreme Court picks. And longer term, you got to primary these people.
Nate, I mean, to toss to you, do you think that if you're on a campaign or you're watching a campaign and they don't use this week in these hearings in the next month of their campaigning, regardless of who you are, but if you're a Republican, I mean, is the campaign manager, the comms director, whatever consultant, are they derelict in their duty in their job if they're not using what happened in these in this week in like ads in the message going forward over the next 30 or so days?
Totally. Completely derelict in duty. This is one of those situations where fate is a lot kinder to Republican leadership than they ever will deserve. But this is a tremendous millstone to hang around the necks of Democratic candidates from coast to coast. And it goes back to what Chris was saying there. You attack it, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Right? This is where you can use Zelensky without losing your mortal soul, because this is legitimately wicked what they're trying to do to this whole concept of due process, presumption of innocence. Nobody wants to raise their children in a world where their children's lives can eventually be destroyed by somebody they knew in high school. All right, with absolutely zero evidence. Take that, bring it right to the dinner table. Nobody wants to be passed over for a promotion or lose their job because of uncorroborated claims from almost 4 decades ago. Mm-hmm. Like that is a universal thing. And if they're not hanging that millstone around their opponent's necks, then they don't deserve to be in this business.
I would agree. I think that if you're not using this, regardless of who you are, you're derelict, because I think that it's rare in a campaign setting that you get to go on offense against the left where they literally have because here the problem isn't turning out the moderates or whatever in a lot of these cases. This is energizing Republicans. This is energizing the people who are willing to vote Republican at any point and saying, look, it's us or them. It's this or that. And this is what that is. Sorry, that's confusing. But I mean, Dianne Feinstein, Blumenthal, this is what you're voting for, even if you don't vote. If you sit home, you're allowing that to happen. You're complicit as a non-voter. It doesn't matter who you're voting for. I mean, you almost literally get to throw your own candidate, like, on the bus, if you will, in the sense that they don't even have to be a great person. They can just literally be anybody, and you can say literally anybody for once is better than nobody. And it's rare.
In a way, this is the argument that is made in every election: is the Democrats are so bad, you just have to vote for Republican. And what pains me is it's just true.
Yes,
it's just they suck.
Like, they're legitimately proving that on every aspect right now by trying to destroy man without corroborating evidence.
Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, it's only 9 or 10 senators, and some of them are I don't want to say the worst of the worst, but the worst of the worst. And so it feels a little disingenuous to hang the entire Democrat Party on and around the necks of those 10 people. But there's nobody coming out on the Democrat side because of fear of losing power that's saying, whoa, this is beyond the pale, this is too much. And if any of them did that, then I would say, well, we can't indict the whole party because, for one, there's probably 5 to 10 more, but there's no one. You guys, I don't want to go too much longer. We're nearing in on 5 o'clock, and who knows what's going to come out here in the next few minutes. I appreciate your time. Look forward to doing this again. Chris Pandolfo of Conservative Review, Nate Madden, myself, Joe Koss. Again, subscribe, share these on social medias. Go to their Twitter feeds. Tell them that you enjoyed watching this. We're trying to get this going, and hopefully you all like it. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Rock on.